Okay, we have a quorum. Now we will begin the hearing on House Bill 2459, Representative Winter.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for members of the committee for letting me present this bill today. I'm Jeff Justice. I represent the 156th district. That's Branson-Hollister area in the great state of Missouri. I'd also like to thank a lot of the people who have given me information and after I filed this bill and gone through, and there's several things that I would like to see done, but the purpose of this bill is that tax-funded pension, Missouri pensions do not support international tourism. The process of going through this, several of the pensions have given me their anti-terrorist investment policies. I have what you call a third-party independent research provider, and I think that reading over the policies that the pension plans have, that there's no reason to have a third-party independent research provider, because the pension plans themselves have an adequate way of identifying terrorist states. So that's a big part of the fiscal cost, and I think if that's removed, it'll reduce quite a bit of the fiscal cost of it. And again, I'll go back to several of the pension plans have given me, they have good policies in place. One of the policies states that since 2005, that they've not identified any terrorist-related investments. And I believe that's to be true. I don't question that statement at all. But in the last year, I think things have changed quite a bit, and I think the water's been muddied a little bit with the nuclear deal with Iran, the lifting of some sanctions with Iran. They're still a terrorist state. They're still a country that their goal is to eliminate our type of government, to eliminate the U.S. And personally, I have a feeling that their goal is to kill you and me, and they would be satisfied with that. That's why I think it's important that we have a policy that looks at investments that might be in terrorist states. And I guess with that, I'm open to questions.
Questions of the sponsor? Representative
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Good morning, Representative. I am looking at the fiscal note, and it does appear that at least specifically Mosher's and PSRS did go into some detail about the policies in effect, and you said that this position, what did you call the position?
Well, I'll call it a third-party independent research provider.
Okay, so you're saying that you believe that Mosher's then and PSRS already have something in place where they can identify basically the goal of your bill, what you're looking at, so that would eliminate that particular position completely.
I mean, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, because I mean they go through as you've read, the State Department and several departments in the federal government that would help them identify terrorist states, and then they go and they review their policies to be sure that they're not investing in a terrorist state.
And I think it says that they do it on an annual basis.
Yes, and that's adequate.
Okay.
I mean, to me, that's adequate. I mean,
okay, but your bill, does it require?
It said twice, and that's
okay.
part that I mean, the third party, the twice, going through the asset managers. I mean, I think it's more important to start at the top instead of starting at the bottom, working your way up. I'm not trying to make more work for anybody. I'm not trying to be detrimental or add additional expense in facilitating that they look and see if they have invested in companies that are working with terrorist states or with terrorist states.
So you'd be okay with changing the bill to 1 year then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, in that third party, I mean, that'd be okay, because like I say, they have a plan in place, and that would be the guideline that ought to go. I mean, don't want to change something that's worked for a number of years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Kendrick.
Two questions.
Proceed.
So you mentioned Iran, but Iran's not technically on the state. They're not on the state-sponsored terrorism list currently. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know that. I mean, and I think there's some question that I don't know the answer.
My concern is, the reason why I bring up Iran, I know that that Boeing is looks like they're potentially moving forward with the deal to sell 727s to Iran potentially sometime in the future. I know Boeing being a large employer here in the state, I assume it'd be somewhat difficult for pension plans to divest of Boeing stock.
Well, and I look at that, and Boeing is in the, I mean, according to the articles that I've read, they're in the look at stage. I mean, technically they cannot do that now. There has to be some things that have to be changed before they're able to, according to the articles I've read. And that's a hard question, and that's one that you need to look at. But I will go back to, and in being a Missouri, you know, being a very large employer in Missouri and being a corporation, you know, that, I mean, that may be hard, but where do we stop supporting countries that intent is to eliminate us, is my question. And this bill is I mean, it's going to be, I mean, I will admit it's going to be hard to get there. But if you can tell me Iran's intent is not to destroy our way of government and to eliminate us, then I don't have a problem. But I don't think they have changed regardless of what has happened. I mean, Iran, there are some restrictions on what people can do in, you know, investing in Iran and things like that. We want, or any state, I mean, any terrorist state, I mean, do we want to build their infrastructure? We want to build their, you know, their water and sewer. We want to build their airports. We want to, you know, provide them planes. We want to provide their oil industry with advancements that they'd be able to produce more oil, that they'd be able to, you know, make more money to do the things that are against us. I mean, it's kind of like sometimes you work with someone who does everything they can to be, you know, to get in the way or to put you down or to derail you or something like that. I mean, that's where I'm coming from.
Representative Rowland, did you?
Yes, Clark. Does this, I didn't see any responses from SERF, didn't see any responses from Kansas City or St. Louis Public Retirement System. Will this affect them as well?
Well, if they're supported by Missouri taxpayers, I would assume it would.
Okay. But they didn't respond to you?
I don't know why.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? I would imagine we have some people testifying on this. Anyone wishing to testify in favor of House Bill 2459?
No, I'm sure that's going to take up most of the rest of the
Anyone wishing to testify in opposition? Anyone wishing to testify for informational purposes? They're not going to, I suppose. I have a couple questions. I would imagine you've been in touch with the systems, the various systems after you filed this bill. Do they have any concerns about owning companies, as Representative Jackson mentioned, Boeing? I think there's others, probably automobile, oil service companies or anything like that.
Well,
at least. And I believe Iran is it not off of the state-sponsored terrorism list?
that's probably
It's still on there, but we can trade with them. We're doing an airplane deal with them. What about countries like Cuba? I believe at one point they were considered state sponsors of terrorism.
and now they're off. I mean, so
And they're off.
So they would be. I mean, but
Do you believe? And I think you mentioned you believe that the various public systems that at least are domiciled here in Jefferson City are doing a good job at monitoring any potential
Yes.
conflicts.
But I'd like to point out in the fiscal note that one of the pension funds, this legislation could potentially impact the ability to invest in certain investment vehicles. I look at policies, I mean, they're really
Yeah, we
good.
could have hedge funds that have some indirect, holdings of other hedge funds that have direct ties. I don't know, I think it would be difficult. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple other specific questions about the bill. So it actually defines state sponsor of terrorism as any country designated by, just like the State Department. Is that your intent to then just whoever the State Department?
Well, and I think that going back to, if you look at the policies of most of the pension plans, or the ones that give them their anti-terrorist policies, they actually go through a list of,
Right, yeah.
I mean, several different,
Right.
and that's the way it ought to be, as opposed to just the State Department.
Okay, so you would want your bill amended to
Mhm.
basically include, they do the Homeland Security Department, Commerce,
I
Justice,
mean, they
Treasury.
go through,
Yeah, a bunch, okay. And then, there's a part of your bill where I think if they would potentially lose at least 5% of the investment, they don't have to sell it until it reaches a point where the loss would not be greater than 5%,
Well,
is that correct?
and yes, and again, that's flexible, and my thinking on that is, a couple months ago, and it may not be quite that, the market, I mean, and a lot of things, I mean, dropped significantly. And it would be more, and I don't want to, if they run into a time period, we find out we're investing in a terrorist organization, just because the market has a temporary drop, that they should lose. And I mean, the 5%, I will admit, I just pulled out of the air. I will not, there ought to be some guidelines on that. I don't think there's another bill that's, I will say, pertains to the Senate bill pertains, that says by a certain date. I'm not sure that's correct, because we don't know, I mean, that may be the day that, the stock market drops 15%, and I don't think that's fair to the pension. My intent is not to harm the pension plans at all. My intent is, I'm concerned about investing in companies that terrorist business, terrorist states, and their objective is not, that you and I can, there are a lot of places in this world that you and I cannot have this conversation.
Yeah, that answered my question. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Further questions? Seeing none, do you have any comments which you'd like to close with?
That one of the purposes of this hearing, and the reason I asked the chairman, was that to get out, the intent of what the bill does, what I'd like the bill to do. It is not to cost pensions money per se into the, applying to all the things, and that hopefully open the dialogue, and I believe it has to a point with the different pension plans in our states, that we can come and reach some kind of understanding, or board told this, that it'll be trying to do that, not provide money to terrorist states, but also not hurt our pension plans. So I appreciate your indulgence in hearing me today, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate your comments in this that we've had in the past.
I will conclude the hearing on House Bill 2459. Is there any other business before the committee? Representative Huffman, you have anything?
No business to add, Mr. Chairman. It's always a pleasure to see you. You look good up there today.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Good today. We'll conclude today's.